My name's Megan Edwards of Focus Communications, and this morning we're joined by FireFox Gold's chairman, Patrick Highsmith. FireFox Gold trades on the Toronto Venture Stock Exchange under the symbol FFOX. And Patrick, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing fantastic, Megan. These are some real drill holes we're going to talk about today.
Looking forward to it. So for those new to the FireFox story, could you quickly introduce us to the company and your gold project portfolio in Finland?
Absolutely. FireFox is a pure play on gold in northern Finland, and we founded the company in 2017, listed it at the end of 2018, Megan, and we have a team really focused in Finland. Our CEO is based there. Our exploration manager shown here, Mikko Neninen, is based in Finland, in the Arctic of Finland. So we're local, we're nimble, and what's more, we have a commanding land position in an emerging greenstone belt. This is really a very underexplored terrain. We're going to talk about that today a little bit. And FireFox and our tiny market cap and tiny team is really central to the play in this part of Lapland.
And you had some great news out today on the wire. So let's get an update on FireFox's Mustajärvi project, where the company announced more high-grade drill results. Patrick, can you run us through some of the highlights of this release for our listeners?
Absolutely. Happy to do so. And just a bit of context before I recap these numbers. These holes that we released today were follow-ups from a really extraordinary, exciting drill hole that we drilled in the spring of last year that yielded 13.85 meters of 28.8 grams per ton, Megan, from only 20 meters depth. So that was a pretty exciting hole, and it was in a new area with very little work. We call it the East Target. Now, we drilled a couple of holes to the west of that and to the north of that, and we've released 3 of those, a couple of more pending. And I'll just recap here on this slide. The highlight really was hole 21, which had 15.5 meters of 13.09 grams per ton, pretty much from surface. It was 11 meters down the hole, but that's because there's about 11 meters of glacial sediments right there. So just below the glacial sediments, we went into the rock, highly mineralized. That included a 3.6 meter run of 16.5 grams, a 6.5 meter run of almost 20 grams per ton, and 3.5 meters of 24 grams per ton. Again, really shallow. The second hole, drilled a little bit further west, hit 7.2 meters of almost 16.5 grams. Again, only 23 meters down hole. That included, again, a core of 3 meters of 38 grams per ton. And deeper down, some narrow and still high-grade mineralization as shown there. Even the third hole, which was a pretty big step to the northwest, hit a 4 meter run of 4.2 grams per ton with a core of a little bit higher grade there, 2 meters of 6.4 grams per ton. And these holes and the earlier hole are important, not just because we hit high-grade gold in all of them, but there's just some key differences in the style and thickness of mineralization we hit as well. And even in these photos, Megan, you can see some of the differences. The pink color in that one picture comes from the mineral albite. This rock is flooded over larger volumes with albite and quartz. The black stuff is the mineral tourmaline, and you also see the brassy pyrite there, which is associated with the gold. So this type of hydrothermal alteration is replacing some big volumes of rock here. In the right-hand photo, you can see pyrite, which is in thin bands. It's actually replacing foliations or bedding in the rock. Again, this is a different style than we've seen at Mustajärvi very often.
And I noticed that these results come from really close to surface. That's amazing to see numbers like this coming from so close to surface and close to a paved highway as well. What are the implications of hitting these kind of gold results so close to surface?
It's a great observation, Megan. And really, we think this is just kind of a result of and a reminder, really, of the value of being an aggressive explorer in an immature terrain for gold exploration. I mean, the central Lapland greenstone belt remains relatively underexplored compared to places like Canada and Australia, where we have similar rocks. And so that's kind of a plus. But the reason for that, maybe it's twofold as well. 98% of the ground here is covered by these glacial sediments, so the rocks don't sort of stick out of the ground. That means you have to be more tenacious. You have to use geophysics and other tools to see through that. Furthermore, Finland, while a mining country, was primarily in its history a base metal mining country. And really, gold exploration is relatively new here, maybe 15 or 20 years at the most. And really, the intensive gold exploration only goes back for 6 or 7 years or so, Megan. So for FireFox being a relatively early mover and a very nimble explorer here, I think this is the benefit. You can expect to find gold close to surface in some areas because, let's face it, folks haven't hit these rocks very hard before with gold exploration.
And you also reported that the company also drilled these holes at a different orientation compared to previous campaigns. Could you discuss this change in strategy?
Yes, I can do that, Megan. I'm going to have to get a little nerdy, so bear with me, but I think it's worth discussing. And this map shows you some of the reasons for that. Here we have a property map, and you can see the paved highway passing through. And by now, a lot of our audience may have seen this map or a version of it a number of times, but it shows also this black line bending through the property here, which is called the Mustajärvi shear zone, right through that area there. And the Mustajärvi shear zone is the controlling structure. And we've drilled along that several times. You can see previous drill campaigns shown mostly in white. And those are drill holes directed to the northwest, sort of through that shear zone and perpendicular to it. And we found gold in those holes. As you can see, several targets here we've press released over the last couple of years. However, we also noticed some crossing structures here, some faults that we've been mapping and seeing in the core that we know kind of slice and dice these rocks, okay? And knowing that, we realized that after careful observation, some of those already we knew hosted gold. So we had to come in there and turn the drills around. So Miko and Sven and the team decided to turn the rigs and drill this time more to the northeasterly direction up in this eastern target. And we're going to be testing some of the northeast and maybe the central zone in that direction as well. Because if the mineralization is more controlled by these northwest oriented structures, you need to be perpendicular to those to see true width. So I think it's pretty important that we can test appropriately to get the dimensions of these zones. And in fact, in this slide, you can actually see, if you look closely, Megan, do you see the red and green lines on these photos? Those show you a couple of different structural orientations at the small scale in pieces of drill core. Now, these are from holes MJ006 and MJ018, which also hit high-grade mineralization. What you're seeing there is two directions of structure, one of which the green lines are often parallel to bedding in these rocks. And you can see the green lines show you often the pyrite is elongated along those. Those are like bedding planes where the pyrite has flooded into the rock, often carrying gold, remember. And then the red lines would be analogous to these north-south structures that we've now seen, which are cross-cutting those. And look what happens when those two fabrics intersect. We get a big blob of pyrite there. We get bigger blobs of pyrite there and here and so on. So what that's telling us is when those structural zones intersect, you get a nice blossoming of pyrite and probably gold. Now, imagine if we were to blow that up to the scale of drilling these blocks and of the whole project at that scale. Imagine what we would see. Again, a nice blossoming of the grade and thickness. But fortunately, we don't have to imagine it because we can see it on a map like this with the thicker drill intercepts that we've been reporting. So you might ask, what else is new about these results at Mustajärvi?
So what else is new about these results from Mustajärvi? I'd love to know.
I'll tell you what's new. A couple of things. The gold is coming to surface as we've been discussing, and it's always been pretty shallow. We haven't even drilled deep at Mustajärvi. I mean, for us, 100 or 150 meters has been some of the deeper intercepts we've tested for. But in this case, of course, we're coming just below these glacial sediments right to surface practically. Okay, so that's the first thing that's new. Secondly, I've mentioned already this alteration where the rocks are flooded with minerals like quartz and albite and pyrite. That type of alteration, a sort of bulk style of hydrothermal alteration, lends itself to thicker intercepts of gold, and we can see that inside this red oval on this map here. You can see, just look at a couple of the great intercepts we've been talking about just in there, and you can see it as these drill holes are plotted up with those colored blocks there for the intercepts. And also, because we've been able to show with this new drilling direction, we see we probably have both structures here, this sort of northwest trending structure and northeast trending structure. And when they intersect, you sort of get a bullseye, and that's the kind of success that we've been announcing recently. So we knew the east target had a bit of gold. We then got this really great result in hole MJ006, which you can see there, the 13.9 meters of almost 29 grams. And then we came and drilled sort of underneath that in a different direction and found more of it, expanding the zone to the west. So these things are hanging together for at least 15 or 20 meter pods so far. And we can see intercepts to the north on this screen, to the south, and even to the east and west, indicating it's open in most directions. Again, this is kind of news because we've been seeing these narrow high-grade structures, but now we're seeing the thicker volume as well. And let me just point out a couple of holes for which we're awaiting results here. We have MJ025 right there, drilled back to the southeast, and MJ024 drilled up to the northwest like so. So those results are still pending, and we look forward to getting those in the next few weeks and announcing those as well.
And you have more drill results from this campaign that have also recently completed a financing. What are the next steps at Mustajärvi going forward?
Yeah, as I said, we've got a total of 3 more holes to report, 2 of them here in the east target and 1 of them back in the northeast target. So, of course, we are going to be doing more drilling at Mustajärvi and stay tuned for that. But we're also going back, Megan, taking these data and the careful observations we've made with these successful follow-up drill holes. And we're kind of recalibrating our eyes and going back to the results from the central zone and the northeast target, where we also found a good bit of gold and high-grade gold. But we're looking for those cross structures, looking for opportunities that maybe we can see greater thicknesses if we drill in a different orientation or maybe drill deeper. Again, there's been no drilling to depth here, even though we sort of get this almost blanket, these pods of near-surface mineralization, and then beneath them, we still see these narrower veins that could indicate something at depth. So there's still a lot more work to do here. After all, it was thick intercepts of near-surface mineralization that led our friends at Rupert to advance their 4 million ounce Ickery discovery just down the road from us so quickly. And of course, recently they announced a PEA with an after-tax net present value on that project of $1.6 billion. And the reason that project moved along as it did was that they were drilling longer, bulkier intercepts from near surface. So that allowed the resource to accumulate quicker. We look forward to continuing to test for that more bulk style of mineralization here at Mustajärvi so we can keep pushing both high grade and thicker results towards a future resource.
And Patrick, to cap things off, is there anything you'd like to leave with our audience in terms of what they can expect from FireFox in 2023?
Well, surprise, surprise, after something like 800 gram meter drill holes and now 2 or 3 over 200 gram meter drill holes, we'll be back drilling at Mustajärvi. And in fact, it's a fully permitted project. We still have access to the drill before the 2023 spring season is up. So I expect to see the drill back here late in first quarter or early in the second quarter of this year. No surprise there, of course. But we also have some surface exploration results to announce on a couple of the other projects. We're expecting to see a new permit in the first half of the year on one of our other projects. So we will continue acting as an explorer should, Megan. And that means we're going to keep exploring. We're going to keep our work moving forward on multiple projects because, frankly, you just don't know where the next discovery is going to come from. And we're an explorer after all. So expect to see us drilling on probably up to 3 properties during 2023, not just Mustajärvi, even though these results could certainly make you spend all your time here.
Thank you for taking the time to talk to me today. We're looking forward to hearing more from FireFox in the months to come and hope you have a great day.
You too. It was great being here. Thanks a lot.